The Floor Academy podcast is sponsored by Tralama, the trade labor marketplace, where businesses can find skilled trade labor, such as flooring installers, and where flooring installers and other skilled tradespeople can find permanent or project work. You can set up your profile at tralama.com, TRALAMA.com, or download the app from the Apple App Store or Google Play. And remember, Tralama is always free for skilled tradespeople. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. We're here to talk with flooring professionals from all across the country about the issues that matter to you. I want to encourage you to learn while you earn. This week's guest is Liz Calandrino. Liz is a writer for Floor Covering News, as well as a business coach and consultant. After a conversation we had on the phone, I knew I had to have her back on the podcast. We discussed gender roles in the industry and how they can affect sales. Stay tuned for a lot of great stories with amazing insights. Liz Calandrino, do I have you on the line?
Yes, you do.
Awesome. Welcome back to the Floor Academy podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's totally my pleasure. I actually, just for your own ego building, because I like to build up my guests, I had multiple people tell me that they were upset that I cut you off on our very first episode, and I should have shut up and just let you keep going and had like a 2 or 3 hour long episode.
Yeah, okay.
So we're gonna see where this one takes us, and we'll try and keep it to like an hour and 15 minutes, but we'll just roll with it.
Okay.
So we were on the phone the other day, and I love being able to call and talk to you. It's so much fun. I never know where it's gonna go, and it's always somewhere that it's always a great conversation. It's always filled with beautiful insights, and we got to discussing gender roles.
Yes.
And in your years of sales experience, I'm sure you've seen that affect many, many things. So let's have you do a quick intro, and then let's start breaking down gender roles in the flooring industry.
Well, I've been doing training for a number of years, was in the retail business, retired 2007 carpet and furniture stores, and went on to do just training. I say just training, but doing training and speaking and helping people with their businesses. And, during that time, and I write for Floor Covering News, during that time, one of the things I've noticed has to do with how women and men are different. Is that a good place to start?
Yes, because it's very true.
Okay. So, having done a lot of training for the last 25 to 30 years, it's really changed because, we would talk about women versus men, and it's not a question of women failed. What they have failed at is being more like men. And success has always been measured by male standards. In other words, whatever you did, I needed to do it, and I needed to do it better, because that's the only way that I would show how smart I was, how to get things done. And then what we're seeing now is that we are looking more at women's skills to help build businesses and work with people, and the kinds of things that men do in a different way, I've always noticed this in training. This has always been a laugh for me. I would go into the training with 50 people, and most of them are men. They'd send a couple of women, but they'd all be men. And no matter what I said, no matter what joke I tried to tell, they would never smile. Never. It was like we were playing it close to the chest all the time. And it took them hours to warm up. But what I realized was that, they are trying to figure out, what am I going to get out of this? What am I doing here? I don't need to get her to like me. I don't even need to listen to her. I just need to sit here and look like I'm here. In the meantime, the women would smile, they'd answer questions, they would laugh. And that alone shows you how different we were. In the beginning, I would be, oh my gosh, they don't like me. I can't imagine and then I realized that this is how we do it. And so I would and if I looked at a guy, I would never smile. I would never laugh. And I would make a statement somewhere in there, about the point where, okay, there's nothing to gain or lose, guys. So you can loosen up. You can laugh if you want to. We got no place to go here.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what it is, and then eventually it always worked. And I always did really well with working with guys. And part of it was because I just grew up with a dad who, I was supposed to be the kid, the boy. I didn't, I wasn't, but he wanted one and he was going to treat me like one. So I think I told you about that time when the kid across the street got his foot his ankle was just ripped open. I think it got a big can from the top shelf fell on him. And my father she came over screaming and yelling. And my dad said, come with me. Now, my mother was there too, but I said, should we get mommy? He said, no, we shouldn't get her because your mommy's going to get too upset. So I realized what I had to do. So I got in the car. He told me in the truck. We got in the truck. He told me to wrap the foot so it stopped bleeding and to put my arms around him and make him feel better. And, we got to the hospital and then we got back. My dad said, you did a really good job. You were really calm. You paid attention. And you did the right. And now all of a sudden I'm absorbing all these things, right? How to be a good guy, to pay attention. I didn't cry so that he felt like he should cry. I thought about it.
Yeah.
These are wonderful things to be working with a guy, not such wonderful things to have a relationship with a guy, but great things for that.
Well, it's amazing, right? Like your dad was calm, cool, collected, and he impressed certain things on you as a child that this is how you handle situations. And it kind of goes back to, you can think about little kids. And I always told my wife, if they fall and bump themselves, just ignore them, ignore our children, unless, you see blood or something, because if you watch babies, they'll fall and they'll look at you to see what your reaction is. And if you sit there and start going, oh my gosh, are you okay? Oh, did you get a boo-boo? They're going to start freaking out and crying to get the attention. Whereas if you ignore them, they get up, they walk away, and they keep going. And the best example I have out of it is my son had no interaction with any cockroaches ever in his life. And so here he is at 2 or 3 years old, and my wife is just super afraid of the cockroaches that will get inside a couple times a year because they're just nasty sewer roaches that are a couple inches long. Occasionally they'll drop off a wall and start flying at you. And she freaks out. So here she is in front of my son. She screams, she jumps on the chair. And that's my son's first interaction with a cockroach. So now I've got an 11-year-old boy that sees a cockroach once or twice a year, freaks out, runs away instead of grabbing his shoe and smacking it. And that's what my reaction would have been is, watch, here's how you do this. Stomp. So it's interesting that, there are certain gender roles, but there's also influence from each parent on how to handle situations. And then that can get instilled in you. And so even though you were a young lady, and I'm sure your mom taught you how to care and be gentle and kind, Dad was there and he was like, this is how you do it. And that stuck with you.
Right, because I got to like him better somewhere along the line, because I didn't like my mother's crying and wailing. Although she didn't do very much. She didn't do much of that, I can tell you. She was pretty tough. So, I grew up with, my father's values, and I spent an enormous amount of time with him as a little kid because they didn't have a kindergarten. And I missed them. Then I missed first grade. It had something to do with my age and when I was born. So I missed going to first grade by a couple of months. So I was around the house, and my mother used to say, take her with you because she doesn't shut up. That's what she would say. So because I talked all the time. Well, I'm a girl, and girls, if you look at the amount of language and words that we have a ton more words than men do. We just, from the day we're born, boys come to school, and I taught kindergarten once. They come to school, and if they don't have a truck, they ride the chair around.
Yep.
They go out in the playground, they knock each other out. I always admired the part where guys can get into the worst argument. They just knock each other out, and then they go have a beer. Women would never knock each other out. If a woman knocked you out, you would hate her forever. You would say, what is she? She's not a girl. She's crazy, and I remember as a kid that's the kid I was. I'd go to school, and my dad said to me one day, and I know he meant it now as kind of a joke, but he said somebody was pulling my hair and had long hair, and they were tying it to the back of the seat on the bus. So when I got to get up, my hair was tied.
Oh, jeez.
And I was embarrassed, and I was crying, and I came home, and I said to my dad, what are you going to, Dad, you have to come to school and I told him, and he said, no, I'm not going to school. And I said, well, I can't go to school either. He said, yes, you can. He said, you just need a big stick. And if anybody hurts you, just hit them with the stick. Now, that's probably a bad thing to tell a kid, because I thought he meant it. So the next thing, I'm in the principal's office with my father and my mother, because I gave some kid a whack, got him a black eye. And then I guess I jumped over the seat, and I was like really tiny, jumped over the seat and really got into it with him, and, come home with a black eye, and oh my heavens. And my father said, what were you doing? I said, well, Daddy told me to get a stick. So I got one. I got a really sharp one. And there I was, not really being female. So I always had trouble with little girls, because, I kind of always took over, and, I had my big stick, and, I always tell my sister that whatever I wanted her to do, she was going to do. And she did, because she was 6 years younger, and, I would have plays, and I was always concocting something, and she would star in my plays. And she always got dressed up with whatever I told her. And if I told her to put her tongue on the sled in the cold weather, how that hurts.
Oh, man.
She would do it, and then I'd get yelled at. So, we grow up with these roles, and I know that sales training, I think that's the part where people go wrong that own businesses, because they put everybody in a room and they bring somebody in to train them all. Now, unless the trainer is really good and understands the differences, they won't point them out. And so women have a tendency to after a while really clam up, because the men are into, just ask for the sale. Just tell them to give you the money. And, and I'm reading, we have our women's group online, right?
Yep.
Women of the flooring business. We had men in there, and then we decided that we needed all women, and we did need all women, because women express things differently. They want to, and I noticed that anytime there was a problem, men would say, this is how you do it. Just do this. No big deal. And the conversation would stop. And now I notice that, women just go on, and we get tons of conversations with a problem. You get 10 women, and it's not that they're so sweet and lovable. You listen to them, boy, and they're tough as nails. They just don't, I think, in many ways, feel comfortable expressing that, because that's not sort of how, it's not really, how we are or what's expected of us. Women are deadly on the sales floor. They are way better than men. And you guys out there, forget it. They are. And one of the reasons, if a woman is good, she's excellent, because she can build that rapport. Take the time, build the rapport, and then the sale is closed, and the person doesn't even know the sale is closed. Men are in a hurry a lot of times. They don't like building the rapport. They think that it should just happen if they say hello. And, women just know it's a lot more than hello, because it just is a lot more than hello on a lot of levels for them. So,
well, I think, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was
No,
going
I
to
was just,
okay. We're just going to step all over each other.
who gets to talk? Okay, so let's just say that if you're going to teach them, you got to understand there's differences, and you have to help people learn the way they know.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I was going to say, right? Like, okay, women more or less, stereotypically speaking, are going to build relationships, right? Like, you're good at going in and listening and hearing people out and connecting with emotions and identifying them, and you're really building that rapport. Whereas myself as a guy, I'm going to go in, I'm going to be like, okay, here's all the technical details, this is why it's going to work, here's what the cost is going to be, let's just get this done, right? Like, I'm just going to come in, I'm going to identify what the problem is, and I'm going to solve your problem. You're going to connect about the problem, build a relationship over the problem, and they're going to love you to death for it, because you understand them, and there's something deeper. And so probably somewhere in between the middle and being able to do both is where we all really need to be, but there's just innate differences.
Yeah, here's where the problem starts. So it becomes a problem when a woman, I used to call on general contractors, big ones. And my job was to go see who was working on the job site, talk to the clerk of the works, whatever. Now, a guy goes in and he can just get right to it. Now, when a woman behaves the same way, oftentimes men are really put off by that, because, we look different, we're cute, we ought to smile, and they have a different way that they perceive us in general. I was reading a study the other day about men and women getting dressed, and like a woman showing up at the board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And so people know what she's wearing. They know everything she's wearing, and the men know too. Now, a guy shows up, and if it's one of those occasions where he needs a suit or a jacket or whatever, they all look alike. But no, women don't look alike. Their hair color, their nails, their makeup, what kind of shoes, stockings, whatever they're wearing. So it's been said that women really have to pay attention to that, because we really are rated on that. Men, for the most part, unless I call them peacocks,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know when I work for car dealers, I always post pictures of guys' socks and shoes, because I call them the peacocks that come in and they sit down, and those socks and shoes are just handsome, and there's not many women that work there. And I said, those are peacocks. That's what they are. I mean, they look fancy, but you don't get a lot of them, right? So women have this issue. If I'm gonna call on a general contractor, I mean, he hasn't got much time, right? He hasn't got much time. A woman shows up and he already says, oh, they sent me a woman. Now, I don't care what year we're into, but some of that stereotype still exists, So they sent me a woman, I wonder if she knows what we're doing in here, and I don't have much time. Now, maybe if she smiles and says hello, that if she can do that part in the beginning, that probably takes away a lot of that for him, and then she can go do it. But a guy wouldn't do that. He wouldn't smile or anything. He'd just sit down, open up the plans, and start showing where the flooring is going to go. Yeah. And I used to call on general contractors, and this one story to tell you, because this is like one of my absolute bests. There was this huge project, and we used to get what's called Dodge reports. I don't know if people get Dodge now. I think they still do. And we used to get them. They would come in plans now, I think, and then they came on some kind of what am I thinking about? Well, now they probably come online, but before that, they would come like a camera. They'd be all pictures, and you have to unroll it like old film.
Okay.
So there was this job, and it was like 50 miles from us. And I looked at it and I said, man, this is a huge job. And, we really have to try to get this. So I go down there, I call up the general contractor, who is from Arkansas. And here I am, that New York lady. And I know we've already got a problem. because I'm talking 10 times faster than he is. And
Mm-hmm.
he's, anyway, so I go down there and I meet him at the job trailer. The job is not going to happen for 8 months or a year. And he says to me, I said, well, welcome to New York. And he said, he started with how he hated the place. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, look, I don't have a copy machine. I don't have a computer. I don't have a secretary. And I said to him, well, how about I get you all those? So I sat down and meanwhile, across the street is a floor covering dealer, right across the street. And so I sit down with him. I said, look, let me make a list of what you need here. I said, I can find everything you need, I bet. And he said, you can? And I said, yeah. So I outfitted his office. I got him a secretary. I got everything he needed. And he said to me, the job is yours. Anybody who can pay attention to this much detail can do this job. The problem was that the product that they spec'd, we could not get the right price on it. And I knew it. So I had to talk. We and I talked a lot. And he said, okay, all you have to do is you got to find somebody to make that product for you. And I said, okay, I got it. I know what I need to do. So, and you got to convince the architects, he said, that it's a good thing to do. And we know that they don't think that. Well, long story short is I got the job. And the guy's still a friend of mine. And I laugh because, now would a guy think that? Maybe he would. I don't know. But it's kind of like I took my shot where I thought that I could be the most helpful. And I think women think that way. We try to figure out what are all the problems and how can we fix it? I mean, that's one of the best things we can do. And since we have spaghetti, like our brains are more wired, everything together, we can do a million things at one time. And so I never forgot that because the guy across the street, he was trying to get the job and he would go call on the guy and the guy across the street would humor him or whatever. And he'd get numbers for him. And then he'd call me and he'd say, hey, this is what the numbers are too. So you need to make sure your numbers are right. And I never forgot it because I realized that there's just different ways that we do things. And I was on another job site and the guy who was the clerk of the works and then the other guy who was the managing job said to me, I haven't been home in 3 weeks. My wife hates me and I have an anniversary coming and you're behind on the job. And, you're giving it was like all kinds of problems. And then I said to him, do you have an American Express card? And he said, yes. I said, well, give it to me. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out. I'm going to make you have the best anniversary you ever had. Just give me that card. And I took the card. And I bought his wife the right stuff. I got him the hotel. I got everything for him. He said to me, I don't care how bad you do the job. You just saved my life. Now, these are the kind of things I think that we should rely on women for. With that, we talk about vision. We have peripheral vision, very good, and men do not. That is why women go out with men, and a man will turn around and look right at a woman. Now, women, we get upset about that because we say, what's he doing that for? Well, the reason he's doing it for, you already saw what she's wearing. You know what she looks like because my peripheral vision is much better than yours. I don't have to turn around, but you have to turn around in order to see. So that starts all kinds of problems. But we need to look at the kinds of things that women bring to the work site because it's different. And because of our differences, instead of thinking about us, the reason that we failed is because we're not like you, because those are the only standards that we're measured by. We need to really look at women and the ways that they think and the kind of things that they can do that can enhance a business. In other words, you got to use both. Instead of trying to make the woman be just like a guy, we need to figure out what are the skills she has that we hadn't even thought about. And so, they used to laugh at me because that's all I did was call on general contractors, try to figure out how to get an inside on the job. I couldn't figure out which way a door swung. I'd look at a set of blueprints And my guy would say, we had 2 or 3 guys that did takeoffs. They'd say, look, all you need to do, here's your numbers. All you need to do is to figure out, get into his office, see if you can read everybody else's numbers on that table. See if you can get the woman to let you in, the woman, the gatekeeper. See if you can love her, buy her presents, do all that stuff you do, and then get in and read his numbers when he's out for lunch. And I was just that way. I mean, I would go in and sent a guy flowers one time that I couldn't get in to see, and he was so mad. He said, he said, somebody sent me flowers, and I called and told the woman I sent him flowers. He said, I'm in the middle of a divorce. What are you, crazy? I didn't know if it was my girlfriend or my wife. You better get in here because you owe me an apology. He wouldn't see me for months. He didn't want anything to do with me. He said, when I need a woman-owned business, I'll call you, babe. And he was not the least bit interested. But the minute I went in there, and then I noticed he had a baseball bat, and I said, oh, did you play? My cousin played for the Orioles. That was it. He gave me the job. He gave me the job. He said, yeah, I pitched for the Yankees for a season and hurt my shoulder. And I'm just saying that, I think we think sometimes that women are frivolous and silly. What we don't realize is that we just have a way of looking at things that's just different.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I interviewed one couple, and they will go and do bids together. And I've seen other people like talk online that, they're couples and they do the installs together. They, run the business together, and they go out and they do bids together, and they can kind of divide and conquer when they're out there, right? Like the woman can go and talk about design stuff and find out about the family and do her thing. And the guy's over here being technical, doing his thing. And
right
at the end of the day, like both needs are met. So would it be advantageous that instead of, I don't know how you could do it and still run the same numbers, right? But is there a benefit to sending out teams instead of just one, salesperson?
I think if the team members really understand their position, so that, if she's saying something that doesn't quite fit, that she's interrupted or she interrupts him. Again, I think that men and women really have to really understand each other to do those kind of things. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you can use each other's skills and make it work.
Well, and then you have 2 team members tied up at one place too, where they could both be out somewhere else. I just, it's a thought. I guess if there was a client that, maybe it's the second visit, or like for some reason you have to go out for a third visit and you're really trying to lock something down, maybe that would be a good way to solve it. And you could really start building a different relationship than what was initially built.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. I mean, I knew what my job was, to go figure out the job. My job was to get the job. The guys inside, and they were all guys, did all the layouts. And, we always laughed and says, Liz, it's just a change order. So go out and find one. So, that's what I did. I just went out, found ways to be sneaky. I mean, I just found ways to find out things that nobody else would think about. And so, I did that. Like I said, I didn't know which way a door swung open or closed. And like I said, my job was to convince architects to change, to figure out how to get better numbers and prices. And so I think that things are changing. They really are changing. And as when I look at the women the Women in Tile? What is that group called?
There's women in the flooring business, and then there's the Tile Chicks group.
The Tile Chicks, and then there's women in stone. And okay. I have worked with women in stone. I tell you, that is a tough bunch of girls. That's all I could think about. I mean, these are women that own mountains, and they're like amazing business owners and people. And I really have a hunch a lot of them, grew up with their dads, and that quarry was in the family for like millions and millions of years. And then the Tile Chicks, I mean, we're seeing women really taking over positions that men dominated. And
Mhm.
it right. So, I was invited to go, a few years ago, in where I live in Albany. One of the big supermarkets chains is owned by a family, but the woman is the one that takes the lead. And she raised a lot of money, but one of the things she was really interested in was women's basketball. So I got invited to this event at her house, and she was looking for role models. She wanted women, they were all women, and she wanted us to connect with a woman there and to be a mentor. And one of the things that was horrifying to me when I first got there is I didn't realize until I got into the house, because the house, you stepped up on a step and then it went down, like the living room was down.
Okay.
I realized I was at least 2 feet shorter than everybody else there. Oh my God. It was like 4'11" and they were like 6 foot, 6'7". And I was like, oh my gosh, that was like the first time I'd ever been around women that were so tall. And it was like, and they had high heels on too. They were dressed up. They weren't dressed in their, on the court garb. They were dressed with heels and dresses. And I was like, oh my God, these women are like 6 foot, 7 foot. Who are these people, So it was kind of like a whole new thing for me. I had never been involved with women basketball players, nor had anybody asked me to be a mentor for one. And I said, because they want to do their business, they want to do their own businesses, and they had things going on the side with businesses. And I said, well, I guess I can help out as long as I can stand and you can sit down, because it just doesn't feel right to me. So anyway, that's how that did. But that's kind of like, me learning some new things. Anyway.
Well, so, I mean, you were talking earlier about, okay, your brain's spaghetti. Like there's a lot of, you're wired and everything's kind of interconnected, and you have 8,000 thoughts going on at once. And guys are a little bit more direct. Like my wife explained it to me, like her brain works like a web browser, and she could have like 20 tabs open, and those tabs can't go away until that task is completed. But like closing one, and then, your child walks up to you and says, hey, I have a report due next Thursday. That opens up like 5 more. So now you got like 25 tabs going on. Whereas like myself, I know that I'm going to wake up and I have to get ready, and that's the only thing I'm focused on. And then I'm going to go to work, and I'm just going to do work. And then I'm going to come home and I have X, Y, and Z to do, right? But like each one is a separate task. They never overlap. You deal with one at a time, and there's not a lot of thinking going on, right? Like I'm not being distracted necessarily and pulled to the side. And I think a lot of times, like I can see my wife, right? Like she's in the middle of something, and then that thought pops up in the back of her head about, well, I have these 8 other things going on. I need to get to that. And like, you can't necessarily like stay focused, and you're being pulled multiple directions at once. And so how do you think that kind of fits into how things are done in the industry and affecting sales or installs and things like that?
Yeah, well, if you take a couple of the stereotypes, like with kids, boys like things and girls like people. Women talk and men fix. If I have a problem, I tell you what it is and you give me the answer. And now I'm still annoyed because you haven't listened to me. And I think what we're seeing is that we are looking at a new skill set that women bring to the industry. And again, we used to think that women failed because they weren't like men. So what we failed at was being like men. And success has been measured for years by how men do it. Well, now we have women who are obviously as competent. They just do it in a different way. They're talking about women don't read. Why women can't read maps? It's like they started laughing about maps. This is before we had, what we, now we don't even need maps.
Yeah,
But, a woman would take a map and turn it upside down and turn it sideways. And because women do more three-dimensional than they do, that's why there's a lot of things that women are really good at, because they do good three-dimensional things as opposed to flat. And men just can, right. And men can kind of figure out, again, it probably does go back to, men always know where north is. It may not help them get anywhere, but they can always say north is over there. And it's like, they always seem to know where it is. And women are, we're turning the map upside down, trying to get an idea of how it all goes and where I'm going. So what we have now, and we're seeing it in our industry a lot, we're seeing that women are getting to the same place that men get to, right? So the point is, we all need to get to the same place, which is to get the customer or make a deal, and that we are valuing that women do that differently. And we're beginning to honor that, which is absolutely terrific, because, there's a reason why a couple is typically, two people that are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's amazing how we ever get anything done. Which is kind of funny that, I got to talk and you got to do, and you just get annoyed and I'm annoyed. So, but we're honoring the skills that women have. And, we have just realized that, did women, we talk about women didn't go to work. A woman went to work all the time. If she was home and she had a baby, oh my God, there she was with the baby, and she had to cook and she had to clean and she had to answer the phone, and she might have even been managing the money.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that women are, like I would say, ambidextrous, or that women can do all these things, we should be trying to figure out how to teach men how to do some of that. And also that women, now it's a lot different now, but I can still remember doing training, and women a lot of times had difficulty saying to the customer, just give me the money. I mean, I could just say to anybody, just pay me, but like I said, men don't always want to hear that from a woman. They need it said in a different way, but I had been brought up that way. So I was always good at collecting money. That was never a problem. I loved it. I mean, oh my God, they loved sending me out. Oh, just send her out. She'll just come back with the money. And so I think when doing training, that one has to be very much aware of the issues that people have. In other words, what are the strong points and what are the points that we need to strengthen on both sides so that we maximize that human being? In other words, if we've got a guy, it doesn't hurt for a guy to smile every so often. It really doesn't, depending upon what he's selling. Women are, when a guy smiles, it's like, oh my heavens, look at that, a smile. We're so used to that stone face.
Mm-hmm.
So, if men could, just pick up a few traits or just begin to understand that how women do it, and women understanding about, maybe you could get better at collecting money. Maybe, and again, I read all these things, and when I hear people saying they don't get paid, I go crazy. I hear, well, I didn't ask for the money, and I figure, well, I'll get my money later, and I don't really want to ask for a deposit. And I'm thinking, who are these people? But again, it's how we were brought up and how we think things should be done. And that's one of the things that I see,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I think women can build great relationships with their subcontractors and, and know how to teach people, and those kind of skills we need in our industry. So anyway, that's my thought about it.
Well, okay. So when were you running your stores? Between what years did you build up your stores and stuff?
Up to the year 2000. So it's been 20 years.
Okay. So when you were running stores, how common was it to have a female salesperson?
Well, I only had one female salesperson, and in all my stores. So we had 7 stores. there were no female salespeople except in one store, which turned out to be Margot. Do you know Margot Locust? She
I do not.
Bought fabulous floors, and she has this store in where the heck is she? North Carolina. And she worked with me on the sales floor. It wasn't common to have women for anything. In fact, suppliers would come in. They would never talk to me. If there was a problem, they would always say, I need the owner. And we finally taught our managers to say, I'm the owner, because they didn't want to talk to me anyway because I was female. They wanted to talk to a guy. So I'd say, you know what? Let them talk to a guy. It's okay with me. So the manager, or occasionally they'd say, oh, the only place you can find her is probably at 6:00 at night. She's down at the Empire State Plaza roller skating. That's where you can find her. And so I had my own crew of customers that loved me because I was that a certain way. But when it came to things like, I can remember my friend used to work in Home Depot, and she was a ceramic tile setter, right? That's what she did for a living until everything got so heavy. She decided she went to work for Home Depot. And so guys would come in all the time and they would say, I need somebody to help me figure out what kind of tools I need to cut the tiles and stuff with. And that's what she did for a living. Mm-hmm. And she would say, well, I can come over here and I'll help you. And this wasn't that long ago. I can help you do it. And she said they would look at her and say, don't you have a guy around here who does this? Oh, she said, yeah, I can get you a guy, but be careful because he's likely to cut your arm off. But if you want to learn how to do it right, I can do it. But if that's what you want, I'm happy to do it. She said she finally just got done with it and said, and then it would always wind up that they'd have to come back to her because she was the only one who knew what to do. That's what she did. Mm-hmm. So, but I think, women are all over it. We're all done with that. If you got a guy's job, the only person going to do it is a guy. Women are much more, they're smarter or not smarter, but they've had different kinds of opportunities and they like it. So we've got people in our industry that I had an installer that was a woman, one female installer, and she also was the town sheriff. So I would send her out on jobs, and she had this routine where she had her husband and her son would do the installations and she would clean the windows. It was because she had nothing to do. So she'd walk around, she'd clean. And by the way, she had a gun. So I used to get calls from general contractors and they would say, hey, send that lady who cleans the windows out. I didn't know what they're talking about. They said, she's the best. And I'm thinking, who does this woman that cleans the bed? And she said, Liz, I had nothing to do. So I used to bring my Windex and clean the windows and the windowsills, while they were making a mess. Of course, they were doing an install. Mm-hmm. And I always laughed about that. And, she always collected the money because she kind of leaned back and you'd see that she was carrying a gun. So, we've always found ways to get done what we need to get done, right?
Well, and I think that's... One, I think it's becoming right. Like society's kind of changed, and like I've grown up seeing women do amazing things, and it's just kind of more accepted now to do things like that. But I think that there's many women doing it better than the men, and it's this old school chauvinistic attitude that just needs to go away. There's still very much that macho bravado in like the online groups, and it's a turnoff for me being in them. And these guys are posting pictures of, very women in not a lot of clothing. And they're talking about like, oh, look at that floor. And like, that's not the point of the post. And it's, you want, they all complained about respect being not, there's no respect in the flooring trade. Often we're left off the trade list, in my opinion. But with behavior like that, why we don't deserve any. And so if you can't accept that there's people in the trade and they're doing it better than you, like you got to grow as a person and say, well, what can I take away from that? We're sitting here talking about how there's differences between men and women, but if you can become a more well-rounded individual, why wouldn't you want that?
It's funny you say that because, I'm in a bunch of groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to always change my behavior depending upon which group I'm in. I can post motivational quotes. I rarely post them in the men's groups, though. But I did post one day, and there were a whole bunch of guys that said, "Yeah, I really like that. I really like that." And I thought, "Wow, that's really interesting." But the guys get to the point. I see a bunch of guys, and they just say, "Shut up, do it." What are you talking about? It didn't work out. Steal his truck if you need the money. Now, women just don't. I don't care what year it is. I don't hear that much in women's groups. Occasionally there'll be some woman who is, she'll say something and I just kind of laugh to myself because I thought, oh, she must have had my father as a dad. And she's plenty tough. I mean, there are women that say in there, I just get paid up front. I'm not fooling around with trying to get my money in the end. And they say it and you can hear that. You could hear in their writings, you can hear the emotion behind it. Like, what are you kidding me? I'm not doing that. So even now in the groups, there's a different way that problems are presented. And the solutions may be a lot of the same solutions, but kind of, again, how we go for it is really different. Like I said, the guys in the groups will just say, I hear them say to a guy, "Oh, shut up. That's really stupid." That would never be said in a woman's group. And I said, "Shut up. What do you think?" And they go, who is her? Who is her? Good, get her out of here,
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a good learning experience for all of us to, like you said, learn some of these things. And, guys have always been bigger and stronger and tougher. That's kind of physically, until you start looking at some of our female installers, they are there, right?
Yes.
They have to be. So when my friend, she was installing ceramic tiles, she was 5'11", and, she finally got tired of, she said, "I can't carry that stuff anymore." So she'd have some kid working with her, and then she got tired of having kids working for her, right? So she quit doing it. But, part of the issue, think about ceramic tile. I always said, I didn't care what business I was in. I was not going to we didn't sell hardly any ceramic tile. Number one, I was not going to carry it out. No way was that going to happen. I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard in those days getting tile installers. We had one guy that used to do all 7 stores because he was good and he was the only one. But I see these women who work for tile companies and I see them carrying all that stuff. And I always ask them, and they always say the same thing to me. It's wicked. It's really tough physically having to do a lot of those things. So we still have that as an issue. That's just the way it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, a guy who is in a store who carries out ceramic tiles to the car for the woman is like he's gained about 500 points of understanding that she can't do it, carries the samples out for her, doesn't make a big deal about it, goes and takes the samples out of the car. If she's got them in there, says, no, I'll do it. And it's not a chauvinist thing. It's just a real understanding of that I'm 4'11", and really, it's like I'm going to have to take one sample at a time, and you don't have time for that. So I think that, how we treat each other is really very important. And as I said, on a physical level too, understanding that, women we value a guy who will do that. We value a guy who will come in, and let's say you're coming to my house and you're going to do it. You're coming in and you're going to tell me how much product I need. We value a guy who will explain it, who will explain how this is going to work. Not a guy who just says, okay, and he's drawn something on a piece of paper and he said, okay, that's it. This is how much you need. I don't know what you're talking about. And you're talking about thresholds and you're talking about underlayment. But a male salesperson who goes in and who realizes that there's another way to speak the language. I mean, I watch guys on sales floor all the time in the car dealerships. The guys who are really successful, and I mean are making, they're making into the 200,000s. These are the guys that smile. These are the guys that can make all kinds of small talk. They're talking about what they're cooking for dinner. I'm thinking, oy. But they have the way to do it. And everybody knows, I would think this is true. You can tell me if I'm really off base, that if it's a couple, she's going to make that decision in the long run. If she doesn't like it, it's not going home with them.
I would agree 90% of the time, probably.
Right? So you got to, first of all, the woman's got to like it. Then you got to watch the guy, because you got to convince the guy, because his job as a man is to look out for the woman. That's been through the last 8 million years. His job is to make sure that she makes a good deal. And that's where he comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
He looks at the numbers. He looks at the numbers. He makes a few statements to show, what he knows. I used to laugh at that. He says what he knows and how it ought to be. And then she sits there and smiles, right? And the whole point is that she doesn't like it. It's not going home. He just has to make sure the numbers are right. And now I don't even know if that matters. She may have the money, but I still think it works that way. So guys who understand the differences, and the same thing for women, like, she can talk with the woman, but she's got that guy. That's what happened. I think I told you in that car deal a couple of weeks ago, that $90,000 car, and she liked it. But the woman car salesman having a terrible time with the husband. And I realized that she is using the same behavior on the guy as she's using with the woman. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's being friendly and sweet and laugh. He's trying to figure out 90,000. And so the general manager came out and just whipped the guy into shape. Told him to quit worrying about it. What are you thinking about? You got the 90 grand, don't you? If you know the 90 grand, what are you doing here? That was it. The guy bought it. 5 minutes. All they needed was somebody to take on the guy and to show him that, he knew what he was doing. He had the numbers. He's rich enough. He can pay for that night. And he said to him, "You're going to pay in cash, aren't you?" I don't know if he was going to do that or not. But the guy said, "Yeah, I am." So, it was just that she was a good salesperson. The woman liked her, and the woman wanted the car, but she didn't have the skills to deal with this guy.
Okay.
Who was definitely tough. He was definitely tough, but I think if, I don't know what they did after that. I don't know if he did any training with her. The general manager was just laughing and howling about the whole thing. I don't think he really quite understood how it all worked, that she had really, she had really made the deal, because she had made the deal, because the woman, she got done with that woman, and the woman was tiny, and this was a big SUV, and she could barely get in it. And the woman who was selling it was over 6 foot tall. And she'd convinced the woman that it didn't matter how she told her how she could pull herself into that thing. And then if he was going to buy it, that's what she said to him. "Hey, look, if he's going to spend the money, is he going to buy it?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, then find a way to get in it." Now, I thought that was a great statement, right?
Yeah. No, I love it. It's already a done deal. Just get in it. Figure it.
Just get in it. Just if he's going to pay for it, get in it. Again, I think we don't use skills like on a sales floor. Like, you need sometimes the woman out there to make friends with the woman and talk. And then, if a guy, like you said, if she's got a husband that's miserable, whatever he is, he needs a guy, because a woman salesperson, I'm telling you, telling a guy off on the sales floor doesn't ever work. But it works for you. You're a guy, you know the guy language, and you can go out, like he said to the guy, "Come on, shut up, just buy the car."
Yeah.
Woman says that. Nah, woman says that. I don't think it flies. Even in 2020.
Not yet, at least. I agree. And you also, I think a woman has to be careful how she interacts with a guy, right? Like, especially since the wife is right there. Now you've got issues of, hey, like the woman's going to get mad. Like, are you flirting with my husband? Are you trying to come on to him? And then the guy's going to be confused. Like, what is this behavior? Like, there's a lot of subtle differences in how we all have to interact with each other and read people to see what's acceptable and what's not.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. That's why when we do training, you have training, you really have to understand the differences and know how to really capitalize on them. I mean, when she was out there and I watched her, this was hours this thing took. And I watched her and I listened to her. And, she was doing a great job with the woman, but she couldn't close the sale because the guy was whining and moaning and looking at things like the wheels. I mean, he was just doing, like we say, men like things and women like people.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was just trying to figure out if the SUV was going to fall apart. Now, so when the general manager came out, he just said to, what's your problem? He said. Now, a woman can't say, like, what's your problem? He said, what's your problem? And then the guy launched off into something. I don't even know what it was. But the GM never dealt with it. He just said, buy the car and go home. Your wife likes it. You like it. And you can pay for it, right? You're going to pay for it, right?
So simple.
Well, I think when it comes to high-end merchandise and learning how to sell it, we really have to, I know none of the guys that work there, well, maybe a couple of them do have some really high-priced cars, but most of them don't really.
Mm-hmm.
But, you have to develop your own integrity and your own sense of worth for the products you represent. That bothers me sometimes. Like, people saying, well, I don't know if they can afford it. That's not your job.
Correct.
Your job's not to figure out if they can afford it. Your job is to stand behind your products, know what's really good, build the rapport, and help them make their decision, not your decision. That's why that car, one thing about the female sale, she wasn't having a problem with that. It's a $90,000 car. Buy it. I mean, that's what they sell. If you're in the showroom, then you're not looking for a 1996 Chevy or something.
Correct.
Right?
Well,
this is so funny. My friend he's pretty cheap. And it's not that he doesn't have money, he's just cheap. So he has his car was a 2008 SUV, and it finally died. So where does he go? He's looking in the paper, and it appears that Lexus has a car. It's in his price range. It's maybe $12,000 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes over to Lexus. And so the guy sells him the car, and he comes back and he says to me, I feel like I bought an $80,000 car. The guy said to me, we took this in a trade. We wouldn't keep it on the lot because they didn't. He said, except that it's such a beautiful car and it's been well taken care of. He just buttered my friend up. Oh, my heavens. He couldn't wait to buy the car. He couldn't wait to get out his $16,000, which he had in his pocket to go buy the car. But, that's what it takes. It takes both men and women to really feel good about what they're doing and have the skills to understand what makes a product what it is and why you ought to buy it. I mean,
mm-hmm.
It's simple and it's not simple, right?
Well, so like you said, it's not my problem on how they pay for it, right? Like a lot of my clients right now, everyone's refinancing. Rates are like bottom of the barrel, right? So all these people are refinancing. They're taking out home equity loans and they're doing remodels in their home. Is that how I would do it? No, I don't agree with that. I'm a cash is king guy. If I don't have the cash to pay for it, I'm not going to do it. But that's none of my business. What is my business is giving them a product they're going to love and enjoy and doing it right. So I can't get hung up on their details because I would never make a sale if I could only go and deal with people that are going to pay me cash.
You know what's interesting? I just read in Fortune magazine like about an hour ago that people are sitting on $1.6 trillion worth of money that a lot of people have not spent a dime over the last 8 months. And anything that has to do with the house is easy because they just have to make it look better. You know, you've been living in there for 8 months. I'm looking at the carpet on my stairs. It is so filthy. And I'm here with 3 cats. There's nobody else here. And I'm thinking, I have got to get, either I rip that out or I got to get it cleaned, And I don't know if I even want anybody in this house. Maybe I'll just rip it out. It's a staircase. But people are sitting on a lot of money. And so if you can help them understand the products you have and how they're going to add, I think these days it's to add comfort and beauty and value to your home that you're going to get them, because that's what's fueling us these days. What's fueling us is that we have to do something. Your home is either your castle or it's your jail, one or the other.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I agree. It's the, you're talking about the car dealership and the guy, it's $90,000. He's just going to buy the car. It's a done deal. I've found that I do better selling in upscale neighborhoods, right? Like my bread and butter is probably like $400,000 to $800,000 houses. I just do better in those neighborhoods with those people selling at the prices I sell at, because there's just more to connect with them on. Usually someone's like an entrepreneur like myself, or, they've worked their way up from the bottom and they feel successful. So there's a lot of things we can relate over. They've been burned when they were like younger and, picked a bad contractor, and now they just want the guy that's going to do it right. They don't care what it costs. And so it's finding that market, but you can go in, you solve their problem, and you tell them like, hey, it's this much and this is what you're going to get and this is what it's going to look like. And it's just like this, it's a done deal. Whereas this morning I had a lady message me about one of my advertisements that I put up for the weekend. And one of the first things she asked was, do you have any stores that I can go shop at where you get an installer discount? And I completely ignored it, right? I'm not even going to I'm not going to entertain that idea.
Right.
Like, that's not, if you didn't understand from my company name and from the pictures that I'm putting up and the stories I'm telling that I'm trying to build value in something, and you're immediately asking for a discount, like most likely this is not going to be a good fit. Like, that's not the kind of clientele I'm going after. And so, I went through, I answered all their questions and stuff, but we'll see, I'll follow up in a couple of days and we'll see if anything comes of it, but I doubt anything will. It's just, there's mindsets, right? And we have to understand these things and be able to work with people. And so now, not only do I have to be able to understand the mindsets of what niche do I want to run my business in, but now I have to understand differences between men and women, and then I can really start making some sales.
Well, you just said something else that's very important. This is one of my big soapboxes, is that we don't market our craftspeople. I hate the word installer. Mm-hmm. These are craft people, and these craftspeople install products, but we sell them as installers, which is kind of like the guy maybe who picks up the garbage on Friday, instead of the guy who has to figure out, first of all, how to get along with you, how to lay the pattern out right, how to make sure he's got all the stuff that he needed, and you didn't send it to him. So now he's got to figure out what he's going to do. And then you're not going to pay him because you didn't get paid because you didn't ask for the money up front. So I think that where we go wrong is that we have craftspeople. Mm-hmm. We need to market them like craftspeople. And when somebody says to you, they're installing free at Home Depot, you have to be able to say, I don't know who's doing the installing. We have craftspeople that do installation. We just don't have installers. Mm-hmm. So if you're just looking for an installer, I don't know what kind of craftsmen they are, if they actually know what they're doing, But that's why we charge more, because ours are craftspeople. And you can go off into craftspeople from Europe and Italy. You can go off into that's my father used to do that. Just go off into it. But we don't spend enough time with that, which would the customer wouldn't even look at the products after that, because we've now found, it's really interesting, that the last study I read, I'm trying to think who it was, but that I think it was a Google study, that they were talking about that for the first time in retail, that product and price have taken a back seat to the customer experience.
Interesting.
And if you can, and that's why I just rewrote my book, Red Hot Customer Service, and it's now the Red Hot Customer Experience, and it's got on the front cover service with a big line through it. And we really forget that the customer is building constant experiences online before they get to us. You know, they've looked at products, they've looked at price, they've talked to their friends, and they're taking this long journey online before we show up. And we have a huge opportunity to influence them if we talk about the thing that we have that differentiates us. And it's called our unique selling proposition. And it is the person who installs that product. That is the craftsperson. If you can show a customer what that looks like when it is installed, there should be no problem selling them. But we start with product. We say to the customer, what are you looking for? That is the stupidest question. How many customers have come in and told you, do you have red? Do you have yellow? They only buy beige if it's carpet, for goodness sakes, or gray. I mean, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we ask them the question instead of talking to them about what problems they're trying to fix? And what is it that you would like to see that's different this time? And then let me show you what my craftspeople can do with that ordinary piece of whatever in your house.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do that. I still go into stores and people are asking, what do you want to buy? I'm thinking, what in the world? She's been online. He's been online. They've done comparison. And they say, whatever the day is, that 78% of people will not buy anything until a friend of theirs online has approved. So I go on and I'm looking at a comforter last week, a high-priced comforter. And I go and read all the reviews. It had terrible reviews. And I said, I'm not buying that. I mean, look at what people are saying. Then I had to go to an allergist a few months ago. And I went and looked at the allergist. I looked at the reviews. And they said she was terrible. And so I called them up and I said, they reminded me, they make the phone call. And I called them. I said, I know you reminded me that I have an appointment, whatever. And I said, I'm not coming. And she said, what do you mean you're not coming? I said, well, I can't come. I saw the reviews that you have, that the lady has. I can't go to a doctor that has reviews like that. She said to me, I don't know what you're talking about. And I thought, we think everybody knows about social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
We think everybody knows what Facebook is. No. And she said, well, she's a good doctor. I said, well, I have to tell you something. I read 30 reviews. There ain't one person who said she's a good doctor. Oh. And I frankly think you've got skin in the game. You need for her to be a good doctor because that's where you work. And that was the end of that. But I got off the phone. I said, yeah, see, we work on the wrong things. We sell the wrong stuff. She's the product. No, somebody should be talking to those people who say, she didn't talk to me. I didn't understand her language. I didn't like the way she smiled. We don't, my cat's veterinarian. I had to have stitches taken out on my back several years ago. And the doctor was too busy. So I called the vet and I said, can you please take these stitches out? She said, yeah, Liz, come on up. I can get those stitches out for you. And I thought to myself, my cat's doing his acupuncture. And I said to her, can I come in and get acupuncture and some stuff? Yeah, she said, come on in. We'll have the acupuncture.
You were such a hustler. I love it.
Well, and I said to her, I trust her. I trust her. She calls me. She has chickens. She said, listen, I got a couple dozen eggs for you. Come on in. I bake her some pies. Now, is she a good veterinarian? I don't know. She's a great person. My poor cat's been sick on and off for months. He's got bad hips. He's got this, that, and the other thing. But she treats him nicely. And, he gets good care. And she wrote me a note last night at 11:30. She said, I think he's getting better. What do you think? And I said, I think he is. He can walk up the stairs today.
Okay, well, there you go.
So what is it built on? It's built on, it's built on something that we don't even, it's not tangible when we build relationships with customers.
Mm-hmm.
Her brother, when he was 13 years old, used to work in my store. Must have been 14, excuse me. And he used to sweep after school. And that's how I met her. I said, is that your brother? She said, yeah, Liz, he's been working for you. He's 17 now. He's getting ready to go to college. He's been working for you for years. And, we're friends already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're friends. So we need to look at the things that actually get us the right customer. You said it. I know who my customer has to be. I just have to find new ways to get them, right?
Yep.
And I still believe it's building up those people that actually install this material. And I used to call them the white glove group. I used to make them go in with white gloves on. That was an old thing in the 1920s where, right? So, and actually in the 1970s, which is a million years ago, I went to a school and we used to have to wear white gloves. I can't believe it.
Oh, man.
To some of these meetings. And so I just said, I would send my guys out with their white gloves and put their little booties on before they ever went into a house. Never step into a house. Should I take my shoes off? Can I wear my booties? I have my gloves on. I don't want to dirty anything. And the woman would go, who is this guy?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can he do the dishes while he's here? And this is perfect. So I think we miss out. We're still trying to sell things the old way. Like I've got 500 kinds of laminate and I've got 35, I've got all these products. They all look alike. Everybody down the block has the same products and they all look alike. And I'm still trying to figure out why I should keep selling, why I should talk about products when the thing that differentiates you is the person who does that install.
I agree. I mean, Phoenix is a city of 4 million people.
Right.
There's tons of flooring stores here. They all have the same products. What differentiates me? And I've taken a cue from you from our last interview, and I constantly say that I do custom installations. I don't care if I'm going to install the same apartment 100 times. It's a custom installation because
I love it.
Maybe something changes, right? Like that's what you said you sold on, was that it's a custom installation. Doesn't matter if you're doing the same tract home over and over again. Something you're not going to cut the boards the same way every time, so each one's a little different.
Yes. It is custom. It's all custom work, but we act like I think we're better at it now, but we act like that it's like this cookie cutter thing.
Mm-hmm.
I send you out with, 35 boxes of luxury vinyl tile and, you just throw it in or whatever.
Correct.
And, what's funny is I have this young man who lives in my basement apartment. He's a wood guy. It's so funny that he does sand and finish.
Okay.
And so here we are. And so we decided to do some work on his apartment, move around. We took a kitchen and moved it. And so he said to me, I can install in the one room, because in the bedroom, he said, I can install, and I have this luxury vinyl tile they're going to give me where I work. It took him 4 weeks to install it. And I said, what are you doing down there? He said, Liz, I didn't realize, he does sand and finish wood.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I thought all this stuff was just like cake. You just like throw it in and it isn't. And he said, I got to cut it and I got the floor underneath and I got to worry about the transitions and I got oh my heaven. He was so funny. But, I realized at that point that, there it is. There's that thing, we talk about, and, he knows it when it comes to sand and finish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when he gets done with you, you're going to have to want to pay him $1 million because his father is in the same business. So he knows what he's supposed to be doing. But again, like you said, it's not all the same. It's what it is it's all different. And when you make it the same, there's a saying that, when everything's the same, what wins is the lowest price.
Yes.
So if you're going to put everything out there, then it's no big deal. I mean, I love when people say Home Depot is going to install it for free. How can they do that? I said, I don't know. How do you think they do it? And then they'll give me some story and I'll say, look, they're going to give you a name of an installer to do it. And somewhere or another, they're going to figure out the price is in there. They're not losing money. So why would you even say things like, well, you get what you pay for, and, don't go down that crappy road. Just say, listen. And I would just start with that whole thing. Now, let me explain to you how we do it. We have craftspeople, and they've been on the job for 500 years, and they've done this, that, and the other thing, and they won this contest and this, that, and the other thing. Those are the people we use to install. We don't use installers. See, an installer is a guy, and you just go on with it. Installer is a guy who just, puts the bricks in, and that's the end of that. But we get caught up in being scared and nervous. I'm going to lose a sale. Oh, I hate those bot stores. They're so awful. No, they're just clever sometimes. And you have to be clever. I mean, you have to do things like I'm talking about now. Everybody should be giving away Christmas trees. Christmas tree prices are up 30% this year. I just read a whole thing about Christmas trees on Fortune magazine this morning. If it were me, if I had a parking lot, I'd have Christmas trees in it. I would give away a tree if you spent X number of dollars, or I would have somebody who owns a tree farm be right in my parking lot. And as I said, and if you bought a tree, we would give some of that money to our favorite charity or whatever. But it's kind of like we get caught up in the whole thing with product when there's so much more going on out in the world and making people feel good these days, because Christmas is scary and my friends can't come. And Hanukkah, I had Christmas and Hanukkah last year. Oh my heavens, I had 35 people. They're still calling me. They want to come again and they know they can't. We had the best time. But
yeah.
So nobody will be here. So we should be taking up that slack. Giving away trees, giving away turkeys, giving away hams, giving away tofu, whatever people want.
Well, I think that just gets you involved with the community, right? And if you're involved with the community is going to defend you. There's, I've talked about on the show before, there's a pizza shop in an area, I don't know, it's like a 20-minute drive from me. But if anybody talks bad about that pizza shop on Facebook in the groups, the community goes insane. Just insane. And the pizza's okay. Like it's not the greatest pizza in the world, right? Like it's good, but it's not great. And the owners admit to that. They're just like, but if somebody has a fire, they're the first ones to jump in and be like, hey, look, we're raising money for this family. Or, the local sports team is going to be here on Friday, come and support them. Or, the funds go to proceeds go to such and such a cause. Like they always have something going on to like give a little something back. And so if somebody says their pizza's garbage and they got bad customer service, they're like, who do you think you like? A mob comes out and attacks these people. It is wonderful to watch.
That's beautiful. And we also think that, people don't want things for free. Like, we used to give away turkeys.
Okay.
Every Christmas and Thanksgiving, if you bought X number of dollars, we gave you a free turkey or a ham or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this happened a few weeks ago. The woman across the street from me, who owns a big company, it's her company. I said to her, what was she serving for Thanksgiving? And she said that she was getting her free turkey with the points that she had from her shopping, at this one grocery store. Mm-hmm. And I said, what? She said, yeah, I have 250 points. I just need another $25. I'm getting a free turkey. And she didn't need a free turkey. She was the last person on this block. I told everybody on the block. It was like a standing joke that, oh, guess who's getting a free turkey this year? And we forget that people, they just like this thing. It's kind of fun. That's why all the supermarkets always have something going where they give you points for gas. They give you points for silverware. You can get a free pot or a pan. This stuff has worked for hundreds of years.
Oh,
Green
yeah.
stamps, blue stamps, right? So if you buy, you can have this thing going on for the next month for Thanksgiving's over, but we can do Christmas, we can do New Year's, and we can say you buy X number of dollars. Here's your ticket to go get a free turkey. We used to be in one of our stores. We were just down the block from a supermarket, so we used to just run over and buy these tickets for them, and it was just easy. But we forget that people like free stuff. We forget that people like people who give to important things. And these days, being part of the community, you are absolutely correct, is more important than anything. And think about if, let's just say somebody is not going to buy your product for Christmas or because they want something else, I suggest you put stuff online. Maybe online you need a line of dishes. Anything so that the customer says, oh boy, look at this. These people here actually have dishes. And this is a floor covering store. Oh my goodness. I can get dishes from them. I just saw, I don't know if you saw this, but this company online is advertising wallpaper flooring. Now, wallpaper flooring. So I went online and I said, what in the world is wallpaper flooring? It's 3-dimensional wallpaper flooring is what they call it. So you could have a floor and it looks like the shark is jumping out of the water.
Okay.
Well, what it is actually a luxury vinyl. But think about what they have done. They've got a new category that is wallpaper floor, 3D floor, wallpaper flooring. I'm thinking, I want to see that. I want to know what wallpaper flooring is. What in the world is it? And it took me, I had to go through the whole site. And then I just started talking about it. But there you go. You just changed the category. And you can put that on your site that you have wallpaper. And they go, what? Wallpaper flooring? What in the world? So that's like if you want to sell dishes on your website or you want to have stuff for cats and dogs, playthings for them. If you want to have leashes, why not? Just want the customer not to forget who you are.
Yes.
And hopefully when they, so a guy across the street has a little store. It's like a little, he's got cards and jewelry and stuff. It's called Romeo's. His name is Joe Romeo. Now, when you buy something from Joe Romeo, he puts in your little bag and he wraps everything for you. He has bows and ribbon. He has a little package of M&Ms, probably has 12 M&Ms in them. So today I'm thinking I get up. I have to go out with my group this morning. We were later. We went 6 o'clock this morning, not 5:30. So we're out and I'm thinking I need some cards. Oh my God. It would be nice to have some M&Ms. I'm going to go over and see Joe. Now I thought, oh my gosh, Liz, that is really stupid. But he has the M&Ms. And so and he knows I like chocolate. So I'll go in and he goes, I'm going to put 2 packages of M&Ms for you, Liz. Like 20 M&Ms. And then he'll throw in a tiny, a Snicker, like a little tiny 1-inch Snicker bar. But it's just a remembrance of him. And I now remember him better than the cards. I know that I can go see Joe Romeo and I am going to get my M&Ms for free. My 10 M&Ms. We forget that people like this kind of stuff. And we get all caught up in the products that we're selling. We only wanted some free M&Ms or something.
Well, and so, okay, this is going to come out after Christmas. But if I owned a store right now, even with COVID going on, right, and like you're not supposed to get together in big groups and stuff, honestly, I'd rent a Santa. And I'm going to have him read like 'Twas the Night Before Christmas and put it out there to the community that you can come and bring your kids, and Santa's going to give them a candy cane and maybe a little present, you know, maybe buy some Hot Wheels and some other cheap stuff. So there's a boy version and a girl version, and Santa can hand the stuff out and he's going to read some stories, and you host that a couple times throughout the month. Okay. Like it's get people in. You don't even have to sell them. Who cares that the floor is there? Just get them in the store and participating with you and getting to know the salespeople and having a good time with their family. I would, have hot chocolate there, like make it this fun little evening, and, the store's closed and you're just having a good time and doing something nice for people. Is the ultimate goal to get sales? Sure. But honestly, I just want kids to have a good time. So I want to provide that experience.
Right. And so you can put that all up on your social media. People will look at you. You're the good guy. But I saw yesterday people who are doing virtual Santa Clauses. They're doing Zoom Santas.
Okay.
Because all the kids are online. I mean, so they all know about the Zoom. And the kids are loving it. So you might go get yourself a Santa, and you could do it right from your store if you want, but you could do a Zoom thing. You could tell your people, okay, or you could do a direct email to your customers and say, we're doing Zoom Santa. Do you want to be on the list to see Santa? And the kids were loving it. They thought it was so good.
And you can do it. Like, just think of something for, there's always something going on, Have Cupid come to your store. I don't care. Invite like young couples and have Cupid there to take pictures with. So now you got February covered. Like,
I like it.
Don't worry about the floors. The floors will sell themselves, in my opinion. Like, if people want flooring, they're going to come and find it. Like, that's not going to be the issue. But you need to be the guy or the store that at the end of the day, everyone says that's the place. Don't question his pricing. Don't worry about it. His craftsmen are going to take care of it. Let's use the right word here because we're learning things, right? So we don't have installers, we have craftsmen. Just go in there, pick what you want after they educate you on it, and then give them the money and shut up. Like, that's the business you want to be.
Right. That you've got it, and I used to work for a company called The Costumer. I do a lot of blogging for companies, and I used to work for this. They were called The Costumer. And what they did was rent costumes all over the world. I didn't realize that when I took the gig, but I knew that she was different. She was a different kind of bird. Anyway, so if there was a show in England and they needed something, she had more costumes. Well, so I used to have to go online. I would go in and say, okay, January, what are the holidays for January? So I would go on and I'd look at Strawberry Sunday. I'd look at Strawberry Sunday. Monday was Cat Day. Tuesday was, dogs dressed in drag day. And so I used to write about those things. And one day I came upon, Kardashian. And it seems that Kim Kardashian used Ben Nye makeup, the same makeup we sold. And so I wrote a thing about Kim and I wrote a thing about Kardashian. And she got a note from Ben Nye who said, thank you for the PR. It was all over the place. And she said to me, how did you do that? I said, I have no idea. I said, I don't know. I don't know, but I just realized that when I started researching Ben Nye's makeup, is that Kim Kardashian uses. It's like wallpaper paste. It's like the best stuff in the world. You can cover up cracks in the walls with it. And so she said, Liz, I didn't even know we had that. I said, yeah, well, that's my job. I mean, this is what you're paying me for. You're paying me to find something that makes you different than everybody else. And so I'll never forget that, because I used to go on and I'd have to find out for that month what were the holidays. Mm-hmm. And so again, the quicker you can get on things, the better. So like, you could start marketing your February if you want. You could start marketing your Lover's Day or however.
Yeah.
And maybe you can find a way to make that very clever. Maybe they don't even come in, or maybe there's another way for you to get those pictures, and then you can take those pictures and you can, change the backdrop behind them or whatever. You could work it out with somebody who sells flowers and somebody who has chocolates, and you could put the whole thing together and you could have a fun thing with that. Yeah. See, that's the other thing. Get as many people involved in your business as possible. Get somebody who doesn't do what you do, right? Talk to the people who sell the champagne.
All right,
Somebody who has,
yes. Right? All right. I got it. Okay. So you're going to call up the local fancy restaurant that has reservations waiting for like they're months out, right?
Yes.
You're going to work with them. You're going to get them to donate one of the plates. You'll pay for the other plate. And you have couples submit like the cutest photo and people get a vote on it. And then you give away a meal for Valentine's Day at the fancy restaurant. Done.
Yeah. Now let me add this to it. I got another thing for you, which I was talking to somebody the other day, and I just think this is kind of a real hoot. Suppose, DoorDash and all those people.
Mm-hmm.
So suppose what you do is you get the fancy restaurant. They don't want to go out. They want to have a really lovely dinner at home. So you hire somebody, come in as a tuxedo, come in with the food, set the table, and have the candles and whatever else they want on the table and leave. And the flowers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's actually, so there's a restaurant in Seattle, I think, Washington, called Canlis. That's like a fine dining establishment. And they pivoted really well during the shutdown. And so they were they were using their own staff as delivery drivers and sending their fancy meals to homes but they were still including the flower in the box, right? Like they still bought the fresh flowers and there was a flower in the box, and they found other ways to get people to interact with each other. And they were like hosting bingo games and stuff because they're one of those restaurants you go to where it's like, you're going to celebrate something, whether it's an engagement or, somebody's not doing well in your family and you need to go and take them out like whatever it is, like it's always like a big occasion for this place. And so they were like, it's all about the experience. It's not about the food. It's about the experience you have here. And so they were hosting bingo through Zoom for the people with takeout meals to play.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's about the experience. Like you have to interact and do something.
I like that.
They did amazing. Like they came up with all kinds of different crazy ideas. So it's just getting people involved, right? Like they're going to help us if we help them, and we have to give them something to interact with. If you just want to sell something, everybody hates the box stores because they don't provide anything unique. You go in, it's very cookie cutter. It's very boring. You have to find the teenager to give you help that doesn't know anything because he just watched the video in the back on it. It's annoying, right? Like you hate going into Walmart and Home Depot and all these places. Be the store that offers something unique, and everyone's going to rave about you and give you what you need.
Yeah, and they don't even market the things that they do have that are different. My friend is a master gardener, and she works at Lowe's.
Okay.
I've had her come over and do some work in my garden, but they don't market that kind of stuff. And the reason they don't do it is because it's not who they are. In other words, we have a master gardener, and she can tell you what's wrong with your plant, but we don't market her because we don't need 300 people a day going to see Connie and bringing dead leaves into her. We don't need it.
Sure you do.
They just need you to buy a plant and go home, right?
But see, that's the wrong attitude. Like that,
right.
To me, it is like that's not what I'm trying to sell. But you do you with big freight train loads of stuff bought at bottom of the barrel pricing and high margins. I don't know. They got their own business model.
Right. No, that's right. And that's what's really critical. That's really important. They have their own business model. And so they're not going to market the master gardener who can help you with your dead plants. Because if your plant dies, look, shut up, go home, we'll give you a new one. That's the Lowe's model for plants. Because my friend used to be the vice president of plants. Anyway, so you have to figure out, what do you call it? You've got to figure out what your model is, and you've got to you've got to do it. So
correct. And look, Lumber Liquidators has made a killing over the years, right? Like Floor and Decor is big now. Like if you want discount flooring, there's places to go and get it. That is a model. There is clientele for it. It works. If you want to be the volume guy or the quality guy, you're going to find whatever works for you. You just have to find something and run with it. You can't compete in all of them because it's not going to work.
I would love to talk with you forever, Kyle, but I just got a text that says I need to be at your house in the next half an hour to go over something about your book. So
no, that's totally fine. We've been going for an hour and 33 minutes now, is what the timer's at. So, I think that's going to be long enough. I get complaints that people only want half-hour episodes, but you never get into the good stuff within half an hour. So, no, this is a great place to wrap it up. We are far from gender roles, but I think the discussion was great. We got gender roles, we've got marketing, we've got sales. It's been beautiful.
Can you cut it? Can you cut it up and,
everyone can look, it's a podcast. It's digital. If you don't finish it, it's there to finish later.
I got it. Thank you.
No, thank you. I very much appreciate your time. I always love our conversations, as I said before, and I feel very fortunate that I can pick up the phone and call you anytime.
Oh, you're the best. You have great ideas, and I'm so glad that we get to talk. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. That's all the time we have for this week. To keep the conversation going, head on over to the Floor Academy Facebook group. Be sure to subscribe so you can hear each and every episode. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and most major podcast directories. Don't forget to leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. If you would like to be a guest, have questions or feedback, you can email us at flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. You can help support the show by becoming a patron over at www.patreon.com/flooracademy. Remember to learn while you earn.